brand new purple light, friends. Brand new purple light, friends. Facts. Brand new purple light, friends. Red and blue, purple light, friends. Facts. You can get to know the ledger, sacrilegious Sunday to melanin Monday. You can get to know the ledger, my love. Just open your third eye on Thursday. Lord, the food, the art, the clothes, the Vatican's getting exposed fast. We put the show on the road. You better stay on your toes. I was telling land, focused on the ego. Then I opened my heart, let go of the ego. Grand after grand, we stacking up these C notes. Facts, facts, yeah. We gon' put this shit on our backs. Facts, facts. We in your city, pull up where we at. Facts, facts. Peace, love and light. Peace, love to the family. Peace, love and light to the family. Peace, love and light to the family.
These days and time, black man, is going to be the time that you have been waiting for. You came here for a reason. Whatever pressure, whatever adversity, whatever the fuck you feel, I don't know what you feel, but whatever you may be feeling is going to push you, and it's going to provoke you, and it's either going to make you or break you, similar to how pressure busts pipes or the shit makes diamonds.
Peace to the family, peace to you and yours. Peace to the family, peace to you and yours. Welcome to another episode of Saturday Night Live. You are now rocking with the best. Yes, this is your host for the evening, Brother Red Pillar. First and foremost, let me know how we sounding on the audio, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know how we sound on the audio. Let me turn this mic up. Yeah, that should be better. All right. Peace, y'all. Peace. What it do? We sound good? All right. That's what's up. What it do? How's everybody doing on this beautiful Saturn day? And whatnot. Look, man. And this ain't y'all fault and whatnot, but I literally was supposed to be at the movie theater right now. But I'm here with y'all. Before I went down a little rabbit hole this afternoon, and I came back up, and it was like I had to do this show, you know what I'm saying? So I postponed my little movie situation, and I'm here with y'all tonight because we got a lot of shit to talk about, you know what I mean? I was in the lab. I put together a presentation. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, let's cook. You know what I mean? It's going to be one of those nights. You know what I mean? I can't guarantee y'all what time this shit is going to be over. But when it's over, it'll be over. You feel me? When it's over, it'll be right. So let's do it like that. Let me go ahead and get into this roll call and see who's in the building, see who's tapping in from around the world on this beautiful Saturday. Yeah, you know I was going to see Sinners, man. Don't judge me. You know I was going to see Sinners. Everybody calling me up. I got phone calls from all the way this rising and whatnot. People, yo, you seen that shit, bro? Yeah. I'm like, give me a minute, son. Give me a minute. I'm tapping in. So yeah, real quick. We're going to take a word from our sponsors, and then we'll be right back. yeah. Make sure y'all are signed up to the Patreon. It's very important. Patreon is giving what it's supposed to give. You feel me? I would like to have all of y'all as a Patreon. We doing it for free. Free Patreon. You ain't Patreon. You ain't be a part of the movement. You know what I mean? Because behind that paywall, you think we deliver on YouTube. It's a whole nother world in private. You know what I mean? There's a lot to be gained by by investing in your education and tapping in. So let's go ahead and do the roll call and let's get this show started. All right. She said you got to cancel all plans and go see Sinners immediately. You feel me? Come on now. Los Angeles, California. We got Charlotte in the building. Louisiana in the building. All right. We got Columbus in the building, Ohio and whatnot. Bishopville in the building. Toronto in the building. Another Columbus in the building. I was on the phone with a sister. I had a long conversation, a beautiful business meeting with somebody from Cleveland and whatnot. And she reached out and she wanted to bring me to Cleveland. So if I got any family from Cleveland in the building, let me know how that shit sounds to y'all. Is it worth it? You know what I mean? Is it worth pulling up in Cleveland? Because she was making it sound like they need me out there. New Bedford, Massachusetts, Santa Rosa, California. We have, of course, Seminole, Florida in the building, Louisiana in the building, Portland in the building, San Jose in the building, DC in the building. We got Hartford, we got Cali. You know what I'm talking about? Phoenix is in the building, Australia is in the building, Compton, Cali in the building, Louisiana. Yeah. Decatur in the building, Tucson is in the building, Bed-Stuy, Georgia. Wait. Oh, from Bed-Stuy to Georgia. What up, Mo? Hollywood in the building, Indianapolis in the building, Jersey in the building. We got Florida in the building, New Orleans, the Bayou, baby. West Coast shit. You know what I'm talking about? Stone Mountain up in this thing. Yes, yes, yes. Virginia Beach, Sacramento, Coachella Valley. Oh, you fancy, huh? Ohio, Somerville, South Kakalaka. We got Gibson. Okay. Shout out to Woe Gibson. Portland, Lafayette. Worldwide up in this bitch. DC. All right. St. Louis. All right. We got St. Louis. New Zealand in this thing. Shout out to the New Zealand family up in this bitch. You know what I'm saying? Hand. Emphasis. I already know. I already know. You don't even gotta say it. I'm tapped in. I'm already Omaha, Tulsa. All right. So shout out to everybody up in this thing, up in here. You know. Shout out to all of y'all. Y'all up in here deep and whatnot. On this good Saturn day. What else? You could be doing anything else, but you're over here with me. So we gotta hold it down for y'all. Crenshaw. Before we even begin, today, or rather tomorrow, as soon as midnight strikes, will be the anniversary for this project right here. How many of y'all have this in your collection? The 48 Pillars of Power, Red and Blue Pill, a bona fide classic. A bona fide classic. Remember, and this is not to toot my horn, we ain't on that type of time, but they wasn't putting out mixtapes like that before we put this out. Because I remember when we was talking about doing a mixtape, it wasn't like people were saying, yeah, Red, y'all out there following, because you know a nigga will remind you and on these YouTube streets, the chat, that the comment, you know what I mean? They'll be like, man, why don't you niggas stop biting with every. No. Me and Blue decided to do a mixtape. We was like, F that. We want to do a mixtape. We bringing back the mixtapes. And it started a mixtape wave. You know, GNX is a mixtape. You feel me? The Kendrick album, that was a mixtape. I Am Music with Swamp Izzo, that's a mixtape. Not to mention all of the other mixtapes. Kareem was popping. Not to mention all of the other mixtapes that came out and whatnot. But this right here, Bonafide classic. It is not on the streaming platforms because I uploaded it to a DistroKid, but because I had these are all like industry beats. We took the industry beats and flipped them. And they, you know, they was like, nah, you can't upload that on the streaming platforms, my ninja. So we doing this shit guerrilla. This is it gives it more wealth. You know what I mean? I want to put it on vinyl and whatnot, but this is 10 songs, me and Blue Pill going crazy. Volume 1 of 48 Pillars of Power. Yeah, the anniversary. I'm gonna give away 2 of them tonight. I'm gonna give away 2 of these tonight. You feel me? These are sealed. I'll probably sign them and whatnot. But I'm gonna give 2 of those away to somebody lucky up in this bitch. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm just feeling nice like that. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get into the presentation because I literally don't want to be here to you know, we're gonna be here for a while. I don't want to be here too long. You know, brothers were long-winded. We could fuck around and be here forever. So once again, I'm gonna cover a bevy of topics, you know what I mean? And we'll get around to this time traveling shit as we cook. But let's open it up with this black magic, you know what I mean? Let's open it up with this magic and shit like that. Everybody talk about magic. The movie Sinners is doing a good job with getting that conversation going and whatnot. You know, my IG was kind of lit today with people just, you know, having these conversations about hoodoo and some other things. So it's perfect time to talk about that magic. We like talking about. Shout out to Black Magic and shout out to all of my warlocks and shout out to all of my magicians and my brujas, shit like that.
Do you regard black magic as being purely fictitious, or is there some truth in it?
Some truth. 100% truth. There is nothing fictitious about black magic, in any way whatever. It is a fact. It is a fact which has existed for several thousand years. I mean, when we talk about black magic, we are talking about Satanism, necromancy, alchemy, witchcraft, the worship of Satan, the worship of dark forces, whether it's voodoo, juju, whether it's something practiced in the Western world or the Eastern world, whether it's easily defined or not easily defined, the order of the left-hand path, the following of this, the following of that. It is basically the worship of the force of evil as embodied by Satan, Lucifer, the princes of darkness and their legions and so on. In a very simple sense, of course, it goes much more deeply than that. It is a fact. It is a desperately dangerous fact. It does exist. It exists around us today. Satanic ceremonies will be happening in Britain tonight. Very definitely. Ask any priest, ask any member of the forces of law and order, and they will tell you that Satanism as such, it's there, and it has been for thousands of years. Man has worshipped the devil longer than he has worshipped perhaps an established religious figure.
Part of Harry Houdini's mission was to expose fake spiritualism. But this man, Black Herman, used spiritualism to empower an entire community. One of the most profound black magicians that you've probably never heard of was seemingly magic himself. Benjamin Rucker was born in 1889 in Amherst, Virginia. He began apprenticing for a traveling performer named Prince Herman. He was taught things like sleight of hand, spiritual salesmanship, and African remedies. When Prince Herman passed, Benjamin Rucker took on the moniker Black Herman to honor his mentor. The act that made him the most famous was his resurrection illusion. He staged full funeral services with a glass lid casket, mourners, a pronounced TOD, and he'd be interred as a show in public. Days later, he would rise, walk on stage, and continue to perform like everything he just experienced was optional. For those who didn't understand, it was a spectacle. But his act was intentional and it was catered for black audiences. He sought to show that in a segregationist world that tried to bury them, they could still rise. He combined escapes, illusions, and stage magic with something much deeper. Ancestral African knowledge, tradition, and spiritualism. He sold dream books, oils, powders, talismans, protective formulas, and elixirs. many, if not all, that he provided as tools for survival. He also authored Magic, Mystery, and Legerdemain. It served as a coded life manual for the Black working class. It included spells for love and luck, rituals to protect from injustice, astrology charts for navigating court dates and dangerous travel, spiritual warfare strategies, and dream interpretations. He was using entertainment as a bridge for something so much more, for a community that absolutely needed it at this time. He wasn't just a businessman, he was a businessman. He was self-funded and booked everything himself. He trained his own staff and published his own books. He also refused access to white magic clubs and elitist circuits. Instead, he carved a path through Black America. And despite being well known at the time for his work, he was refused access to major magic societies throughout the United States. When Prohibition eventually came, his merch table was full of things that should have got him arrested. But because his elixirs were African health remedies, he was untouchable. He was still able to help people with medicine and magic and stay one step ahead of law enforcement that was out to get him. During the Harlem Renaissance, Harlem, New York became his home base. His performances would continue to be inspired by people like Marcus Garvey. His shows were immersed with burial, rebirth, miracles, and revelation. And many could not explain the genuine resolutions that they had in their lives while they watched him perform at Black theaters throughout the South and to mixed crowds throughout the North. On April 15th, 1934, while in Louisville, Kentucky, he collapsed of heart failure. He was gone, but many people did not believe that this was anything other than an act. His assistant decided that he would turn this into a final act. He did this under the guise of the resurrection illusion. Crowds came and expected Black Herman to rise again. And when he didn't, people believed that he was never really there. He was allegedly buried in an unmarked grave in the Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx. Black Herman was a movement in motion. He proved that magic could be resistance and empowering. He showed that mysticism could be a tool of economic survival. He preserved and embedded African spiritual systems in entertainment, palatable for those who could not see the deeper meaning of his work, and revolutionary for a Black community who was seeking to redefine power for themselves. When the spiritualist movement became about exposing lives, he was there changing them.
So we got to have conversations about bringing back the teachings of the Black Hermans in our community. Shout out to Asir the Duke of Tears, because he was one of the first ones that I heard talk about Black Herman, as well as Azazel Bay, as well as Bobby. Also Pascal Beverly Randolph. Like, these are, we need movies done. We need documentaries. The same way that these knuckle draggers, bootlicking Negroes would get up here and put out 1,000 documentaries about these degenerate drug dealers and these soulless gangbangers and whatnot. We need people in our, I'm not depending on these niggas. I'm not depending on these platforms to do that type of work. I'm depending on our platforms and our creators and whatnot, those that are in the audience and those that are quote unquote on the stage, to like do the motherfucking work. And when we say do the work, is resurrecting the ancestors by telling their stories and whatnot. Yeah, we're going to tell your story, but just not yet. You know what I mean? Your job as a service, you're a service, you're providing a service. So the service that we need to provide our community, because they're interested in shit like this, is by telling the stories about the great ones who already walked the path. You feel me? You know, no disrespect to the path that you may be walking, but, you know, give praise and honors to the ones who came before you and paved the way. You feel me? That way you might find yourself. So I'm so glad that movies are coming out that are talking about hoodoo, black magic, and things of that nature, and taking away the veneer of this fake ass, you know, I would just say it's a homegrown fear. You know, niggas got obiophobia and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? They've been indoctrinated. A lot of people have a Christian background, or they're surrounded by Christians, and they can't shake that. You know what I mean? There's a white Jesus on a lot of niggas' shoulders and whatnot, and you know they still feel the pelts of the whip. You know what I mean? They still feel the burn of that motherfucking salt on their wounds, so they run away from all things magic, you know what I mean, and try to demean it and demonize it. For all of my Patreons, this book right here is going to be on the Patreon. You know what I'm talking about? This whole PDF right here from Black Herman, it's 100+ pages. We'll have it available for all of our Patreons. Or if you send a donation to Buy Me a Coffee, you'll have access to it as well. You'll be able to claim it. You know what I mean? But we want y'all to be able to read this shit. We want you to be able to, just immerse yourself in what was going on in the 1900s. Take yourself back in a time machine. The time machine. You feel me? Somehow, some way, we had more things going on 100 years ago than we have going on right now. Somehow, some way, when we were segregated, we were not assimilated into this goddamn system and whatnot. We were not, kissing the ring of these Europeans and whatnot. We had more power. We had more concentrated power. We were more focused. We understood what the fucking assignment was. You know what I mean? It's highly difficult to have that done these days. Henceforth, why I advocate segregating in the mind first. We have to be mentally segregated. Like we don't see nobody. And we don't want to share the stage. We don't want to talk to nobody. We don't want to sit with nobody. We don't want to invite nobody to no goddamn barbecue. We segregating in our minds first, and then it's going to happen physically as well, to the point where we're not even going to allow people in who are not of the tribe. Just because you look like us don't mean that you like us. They not like us, right? So, very powerful proof that everything is not voodoo. Everything is, because this shit that they doing in Atlanta, I'm not speaking about that. You feel me? I'm not talking about that shit that they doing with Young Thug and all of them, where they giving these street niggas protection and whatnot. That shit that these Africans is coming over here to do, the shit that these niggas in my DM in my inbox. One of these cocksuckers had the nerve to call me on Instagram from Africa, trying to rock me to let me do a reading for you if you don't get the fuck off my phone. I'm not with none of that. You know what I mean? Like I said before, when they stabbed up the sister from Wadata, and I saw how the people in Atlanta was moving because it was rumored that certain people of a spiritual community was responsible, and I seen niggas tuck their tail, I removed myself from everything involved with that community and haven't been seen since. You know what I mean? I don't even want to rock with nobody in the Atlanta area if they claim that they're doing magic and you niggas is dusty. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing that you could tell me that is beneficial out of the things that a lot of these people are out here doing, because they just looking, I'm not even gonna get into it. But I put it on record and I'm standing on it. The shit that they're doing out here is demonic. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody, of course, but some people, it's a lot of fuckery taking place. And they are it seems as if people are bastardizing the craft. And it's really for the underground. You see them using it for underground purposes and whatnot, to help out drug dealers and killers, and shit is kind of backwards. Throwing hexes on people and all of this stupid shit. You feel me? But the Europeans still is stomping niggas out. Still got they boot up everybody's ass, and I don't get it, but whatever. It just goes to show you, like I said, that 100 years ago and 100 years and change, they were more focused and they were doing things on a more commercial level and whatnot, rather than a lot of that snake oil shit that's going on these days. Shout out to Black Herman, Pascal Beverly Randolph. I highly suggest that y'all research these people. Your master teacher spoke of them highly. So this was an interesting article that I saw today. This sister named Kamaya, she's speaking on new school rappers making negative music, right? Because if you don't think that this negative music like drill rap and whatnot is witchcraft, if you don't think that shit that some of these artists is promoting with all of that kill, 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 bang, 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 tie them up, chop them up and all of that, that's demonic. It's witchcraft. The motherfuckers are possessed. They have have possessions, they have attachments, they're demons inside of them. I highly suspect that either the lean, the codeine, or the Xannies and the perks, they have some form of gateway. It's a gateway drug that leads to some type of demonic possession. All them niggas got attachments. I even think maybe, I don't know. I don't know. But it's a lot of possessions. The diamonds are cursed, even if it's Mosinite. The diamonds are cursed because the Zionists cursed the diamonds. They curse all of the jewelry that they put their hands on and whatnot. Because when those rocks come out of the ground in Africa, they got to go through the hands of the small hats, and that's where they're doing their rituals. A lot of niggas is in the street dead with fake diamonds on and diamonds and whatnot. Them blood diamonds are cursed. It's carbon. You know what I mean? So you could put some things on that. The music is cursed. The jewelry is cursed. The fucking apparel, the clothes, the fashion is cursed. Polyester and shit. The frequencies, are low. The beats, you know what I mean? All of that shit. It all has to be. We owe it. We can't just be. We can't think that everything is on the up and up, and we don't have no control over it. We don't. Nah. Hell to the nah. Not the way that I see death on my timeline, and not the way that I'm seeing people dropping like flies and whatnot, and not the way that I'm seeing people getting just the worst luck ever. You know what I mean? The worst luck. I mean, god damn it. Even in the crack era, it wasn't this bad with people's bad luck. So there's some type of backlash, a spiritual backlash that is taking place is in our face in real time. Like somebody is not pleased. You know what I mean? Either you wasn't feeding your deities and you wasn't quote unquote in alignment with the I don't it's something going on, because it's just a lot of demonic shit going on. I've brought up the fact that even the heinous way in which people are unaliving people, it is I've never seen no shit like that before. You feel me? Like I've never seen the level of depravity that people are doing. Like it's unprecedented. It's unprecedented. I talked about Netflix and kill, right? It used to be Netflix and chill and whatnot. Now it's Netflix and kill, because Netflix as a streaming platform has done a very good job at creating copycat killers. Motherfuckers be on crystal meth, they be on K2 and shit like that, watching a Dahmer documentary or the series, watching fucking Edward Casey, watching true crime shows, zooted out their mind on all kind of cocktails of pharmacopoeia and mind altering drugs and whatnot. You feel me? And they're either becoming possessed, they're either becoming hypnotized and whatnot, and they're either becoming quote unquote, they're getting these auto suggestions from either the parasites that are inside of them or the frequencies that are coming from the screen and whatnot. But it's Netflix and kill. It's creating killers, because the majority of these killers, where you see women chopped up in suitcases and all of the beheadings and whatnot, the dismemberments, like that wasn't taking place before. I saw all of that on Netflix first. And then it started spilling out into the quote unquote streets, where you got melanated serial killers. When the fuck did that happen? The serial killers, you feel me? It wasn't a DEI thing. It wasn't diversified. Last time I checked, you know what I'm saying? That shit was a certain group of people that was known to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like that was their pastime sport. That was their pastime sport. Like, I would take it as far, and I don't do this, so I'm speaking about something that I'm not doing, but I need to do it. Turn off the modem at night to take away the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth while you're in your sleep state, while you're in the astral realm and whatnot. I think that's where a lot of the programming, a lot of the they're sending a lot of signals through those mediums, through the Wi-Fi, microwave, the you know what I'm saying? They're sending the suggestions and whatnot through mediums like that. And when people are in their sleep state, sleeping with the phone and shit next to your fucking head, like, you know, you're gonna get programmed. You're gonna get programmed. You can't do no dumb shit like that. You gotta get up for it. You gotta get off of that, man. I'm not judging you, but I'm definitely smudging you. You gotta get off of that, man. We gotta, you know what I mean? We gotta let children do what children do. If you a part of this movement, you gotta move on some grown man shit. There's certain things that you have to sacrifice. So she said on her post, half of these niggas are literally making music to kill niggas to and feel like they're murderers. I listen to shit that makes me want to go get some money and get fly. Y'all could keep that first class ticket to hell music. And I'm glad that a sister is saying that. It hit differently than when a dude is saying that that's a part of hip hop. But when the divine feminine, I don't know this sister, I don't know what she rap about, but apparently she says she's talking about some get money shit. But you know, when they start speaking against it, it sets a precedence. Okay, because the women or woman or the divine feminine for that matter, you know, they are akin to what I see as the queen on the chessboard. You know, they set the trend. They are they're the one that they're brand ambassadors. They stamp shit. If they say that shit is lit, then it's lit. If they say it's a dub, then it's a dub. Not too many movements have survived after the women turned their backs on it and gave that shit the thumbs down. Not too many of artists, not too many movements. You feel me? Not too many styles and trends have survived after they removed their support from it, after they removed their quote unquote hands off of it. Once they take their hands off of it, that shit goes bald headed. The edges fall out. You know what I mean? I promise you, there's no popping baby hair. if they take their hands off of it, the edges is finna fall out. You know, black women, especially more so than any woman, Latin, Asian, European, Nordic, and whatnot. It's the black woman. It's the melanated, it's the Moabite and whatnot. She's the one who stamps shit. She's the one who cosigns. You know, that's why she was the biggest cosign back in the days. Everybody's first whip was the cosign, and the cosigner was her. But I'm just saying that in metaphorical terms, she literally was the one who was stamping the movements all the way to when the drug dealers got popping. It was her. It was like, yo, he's the alpha, or he's the sigma, or he's the preferred male who the baddies of that day were basically, you know, giving up their bodies to. So niggas was like, I want to be a drug dealer. Why not? That's who the women are jacking. They was on Bobby Brown for a minute. Then they went to the drug dealers. And you see that in New Jack City with G Money and Nino Brown. You know, they became fucking ladies' men for selling crack and destroying their community. They became chosen ladies' men. So if the women is like, yo, that shit is whack, niggas need to get jobs, or niggas need to be scientists and engineers, you'll see it change overnight. You'll see it change overnight. It's just a bunch of squirrels trying to get a nut, bro. It just breaks. It's all primal. It's man trying to recreate himself by any means necessary. You know what I mean? There's three primal things that man does. If you take all of all of this, if you take it all away, because it's a lot of distractions. But when we get back to our primal nature, it's about food, fornication, right? Survival, being able to procreate and reproduce yourself. Our primal nature, if you took it all away, is to eat, sleep, and smack bellies. If they put us in the wild, if they took us off of this domestication diet and whatnot, if we were to get put in a wild, we will go back into our primal states. And we weren't paying bills. It wasn't about chasing down a bag and I gotta pay the bills. And that's not who we are originally. That's the domesticated version of us. When we're able to live comfortably in a true freedom state, we're gonna have 100 children. You know, we're gonna have all type of food growing on our land and whatnot. We're gonna be living in peace. Okay, and we're gonna be living longer and whatnot because we don't got a lot of that stress is not going down. You know, we'll be surrounded by a lot of love. You know what I'm saying? By a lot of energy. You know. Um, but yeah, it's time to clean up this music industry. It's time to clean up these artists. It's time to turn our backs on the art that doesn't serve us anymore. It's time to upgrade the frequency and get back to the real music and to reward the artists that are brave enough to come out here and put it all on the line and and make music for a specific niche. You know what I mean? We got to reward them. We have to, you know what I'm saying? We have to support them. We got to support. This shit right here will change your life. This shit right here, yeah. This shit right here, this is going to give you dopamine rush. Listening to your favorite music triggers brain's opiate system. So you literally could basically get addicted to music like you're addicted to heroin. Henceforth, while some people will listen to drill music or they'll listen to dog food and whatnot, and they'll be like, yo, that shit feels like I'm addicted to it. It feels like I'm on some dope. Some people wake up and they scratching and whatnot. They got to listen to their favorite Vibes Cartel song. I'm telling on myself. You know what I mean? They wake up, they gotta listen, they gotta go to sleep listening. That's how some people go to sleep with the phone in their ear and whatnot. They're listening to a song on repeat 100 times. They become addicted to it. Henceforth, why the dudes that was with the pregnant bellies and whatnot, drinking the lean, the Detroit niggas, the Chicago niggas, the Texas niggas, all of the pregnant lean belly niggas, right? They literally have other people not only drinking lean, but they have their listeners are somewhat addicted to their music, sort of like someone would be addicted to an opiate, right? The Juice Worlds of the world, the Baby Ray Charles of the world, the Icewear V's, that whole Detroit movement, Rio, the Young Boss, I believe, and niggas like that. They make music that's somewhat intoxicating, you know. NBA YoungBoy does that to the YNs, right? They get triggered. They release opiates. They become addicted to it, right? It's like a drug and whatnot. So the same could be said for positive or uplifting frequencies, and the same could be said for the frequencies that are lower frequencies that have people trapped in a state of first class ticket to hell music. First class ticket to hell music. You know what I'm saying? First class ticket to hell music. Imagine listening to that shit daily, day by day by day by day by day. After a while, you've been programmed to carry out the actions that the music is telling you to carry out. Feel me? It's because it's telling you what to do. It's telling you what to do. The drill music is telling you how to catch the body, when to catch the body. You feel me? How to get away with the body. So check this out.
When you're powerful and more powerful than certain men, it can kind of make it be like, if you don't go with anything that they say, she's this, she's that, she's that, she's da 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 da. So, and she didn't sacrifice herself with witchcraft,
Right.
And for real, like
Right.
she's been approached to elevate to the next level.
Oh, that's a real thing.
Oh, that's a real thing, bro. That's a real, like, witchcraft, voodoo, juju, all of that is a real thing.
To get to the next level in career.
Absolutely.
Somebody said, to each his own, what vibrations work for you, so to call high or low. That's interesting, you know. I was in the gym yesterday, and I was listening to some Vibes Cartel, right? And y'all niggas didn't tell me how graphic this dude was. This nigga's you talk about hypersexualized. Oh my goodness, my nigga. This is hypersexualization on realms that I've never heard before. Like my nigga, there's no song that he's not talking about skeeting something, right? But you know, what song was it? I forgot what it was. You know, it's for the gym. You know what I mean? Like it gives me the type of energy that I need in the gym. So some of us have gym songs, right? And then some of us have driving songs. You know, some of us have songs that we listen to when we're in the garden and whatnot. So that was an interesting question that somebody said about frequencies and whatnot, because you know, I choose different frequencies for different events or for different activities. You feel me? Like, you know, if you smacking bellies, I suggest you don't listen to DMX. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's if you want some shit, if you know what I mean? If you want to keep your Timberlands on and go, you know, and thug it out, maybe the DMX works for you. But you know, me personally, I don't know. I don't know if I can move like that. But different music sets the mood. You know, music sets the mood. The frequency set the mood. So for my dark music, for my real dark lower frequency shit, when I'm in the gym, I'm on warrior time. You know what I'm saying? I'm on warrior time. Like I'm literally and you know what I mean? I'm on some, if I'm not on some Mike Tyson training to tear nigga head off, like mentally, I'm in a place where I'm training for war. You feel me? I'm tapping into my warrior hood. So I can't listen to Tribe Called Quest at the gym. You know what I'm saying? I can't listen to motherfucking Tree Hugging Volume 1 and 2 at the gym. Like I gotta listen to some warrior shit. You feel me? I gotta listen to some shoot 'em up, bang bang, maybe. And me personally, when I'm listening to something, I don't have to think about shoot 'em up, bang bang for my own people. I could easily remove the face and put whatever face of the op that I want to put on it. You know what I mean? I don't have a problem with that. You know what I'm saying? I know how to reinterpret the music. You know what I mean? You don't have to be that intelligent to reinterpret what the fuck you're hearing and whatnot. It applies to whatever you want it to apply to. You know? Yeah, aggression music. It works for me. You know what I'm saying? I get to I get in that mind state. So, you know, it's like Shango. I'm Shango. So it's like, you know, what would you envision Shango listen to? What would you envision Ogun listening to? Like they need their music too. You know what I'm saying? They need their music too. So I'm not mad at certain artists that speak to us from a certain frequency, that tap in to a certain frequency. We got 7 chakras, allegedly, maybe even more. So I'm looking for artists that speak to all chakras. You know, I ain't no bougie ass, you know what I mean? I'm holistic, you know what I'm saying? I'm well balanced. So I want to hit all chakras. But let us continue. He was talking about some magic. So let's hear what he got to say.
Absolutely. Wow. Absolutely. Yes. Wow. It's a real thing. So she's been presented opportunities like, hey, this is what we do. This is how we move. This is the things that you have to do to get to this level by top execs. And she was like, I'm not with it. And then also she wasn't going to sleep her way to the top. So then it caused her, and she didn't have management really for real. So like she's successful. She's doing all these things. And she's to the point where it's like, I'm drunk, man. I got a drink to get out my head and just find peace. And so, and that with liquor brought depression. So at that point, she was like, "This is not me. I love the music, but I hate the business." And she just was like, "I can't do it anymore." So that was how she kind of let it go. But yeah, witchcraft, warlocks, and voodoo, juju, black magic, all of that is hyper, hyper, hyper real. That's what made me even believe more in God.
Right.
You know,
it's so crazy because you get desensitized to it because you will see like the interviews and there's people telling the stories.
But that's what they want you to do, though.
Right.
Yeah, that's the mission. Like the devil, the enemy can't really. He can't lie to you for real. He got to tell you what it is, and you choose to believe it or not. You know what I mean? Like, hey, this person drinks goat blood. Yeah, but I told you that it did, and it's not hiding it. It's just you just desensitized to it. That no, this is a real thing. You know what I mean? So that's just the ways of the devil.
It's up for interpretation to some, but you know. These are usually niggas that are talking about Caesar Bourgeois. They on white Jesus.
Michael B. Jordan play.
They'll be on white Jesus. They'll be on a real demon time. And they'll sit around and point fingers at, you know, some ancestral magic or something that's coming traditionally and whatnot. But they got a white man on their wall with blue eyes who's responsible for wild genocides. You know what I mean? It's a quagmire. It's an ill quagmire. But let's check out a little bit of promo on the Sinners movie.
These twins, but you could have easily.
So if you see the artwork on the Sinners, it's the red and the blue. Okay. And this is dealing with the magic. This is dealing with a lot of things, but our ancestral powers are one of them. So check it out.
Michael B. Jordan plays twins, but you could have easily got another person. Why did you do it this way?
Yeah, it's funny, man. I always wrote them for Mike, you know, always. And they were always identical twins. I have identical twin aunts. They're completely identical. But us as a family, we can tell them apart as soon as we see them. You know, just by how they hold their face. And they got very different demeanors. You know what I'm saying? I always wanted to make this movie very personal. I wanted to explore dichotomy, you know, like for instance the dichotomy between the church and the blues, you know, and I thought it'd be great to explore that. The other thing to it is like we have African people got a very interesting relationship with the concept of twins. There are twin deities in the Yoruba religion. West Africans over-index in the birth of fraternal twins, you know. However, identical twins is something that science still can't explain. You know, they still don't know why the fertilized egg decides to split and replicate. You know, it's not something that's handed down genetically. And what I also found, like in some of my travels playing ball, and you know, it's almost like every neighborhood got a set of twins in it. That's like, and they usually like they like hood twins. You know what I'm saying? I knew several sets in the Bay, and usually they are called twin. Because you can't tell them apart, and that's found its way into our slang today. You know what I'm saying? Like kids calling each other twin. You know, it's from that concept for me was something I was really interested in, and I wanted to explore that dynamic.
He's speaking my language.
It's such a multifaceted movie that taps into so many layers of our culture. You tap into all of these different themes. One is the black church.
I came up going to church. You know, I went to a Baptist church in Oakland called the Good Shepherd Church. That's where I was baptized. That's where my parents got married. It wasn't something that I had to research or think about. It was a part of my life. You know, I think church has come a long way from where it was in the 1930s, where our film takes place. We really diving into the music. You know what I'm saying? Like how we got to the church is because I was trying to explore the Delta blues. Yeah. And you can't look at the Delta blues without looking at the church. You know, because so many of those musicians, you know, like the 90s, came out of the church. You know, your Gladys Knights, your Whitney Houstons, your Luthers. You know, you run the research on them. The first time they grabbed the mic was generally at their local church in front of the congregation. It was like, oh man, that girl can sing. And it was always a conflict between church music and secular music. You know, like the first music to get called the devil's music was the Delta blues music. And there was also that dichotomy of, you know, the same people who would be in that juke joint Saturday night. You know, they might go home, wash up, sleep for a couple hours, and take their ass right back to church in the morning. You know what I mean? And
like the strip club of the day.
Exactly. And the pastor's saying, "Hey man, pass that offering around." And when they light, they say, "Yeah, you had enough to buy that beer last night, though, didn't you?" You know what I mean? Like that. So it was always a conflict over these two institutions. That basically had the same thing going on, and people was dealing with so much that they were looking for the same. They were looking for a little temporary release.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you know, maybe it's spiritual on Sunday, maybe it's more carnal Saturday night. You know what I'm saying? But it is a necessary part of the human condition. You know, in the blues music, coming out of Delta, it leaned into the shadow. You know what I'm saying? It leaned into, like I said, the carnal desires. It leaned into the faults and the flaws. You know, and it was a time where, you know, where almost every vice was criminalized. You know what I'm saying? This was a time when alcohol was illegal. You know, but people were still drinking.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? This was a time when, you know, like a lot of things were frowned upon. You know, I was basically normal human behavior.
Yeah, somebody asked, was he from Cali? Of course he is. He's from Oakland, and he has a very thick Oakland accent. I really appreciate the fact that he doesn't code switch. I really appreciate the fact that he keeps it very authentic to who he is. He reminds me of Nip with that accent, very thick accent. I spoke to 19 Keys. He said that that's the thickest Oakland accent that he probably has heard on a nigga from Oakland in a very, very long time. And you know, authenticity is our superpower. I'm sure that he's keeping that authentic accent to protect. It's almost like a shield and whatnot. When he's in those rooms around those vultures and whatnot, that's a way of reminding both himself and everybody around him what he represents and what he's, you know, and who he represents. You feel me? And who he represents. He's highly intelligent. You feel me? Highly intelligent, and he's highly skilled and talented and whatnot. And it just goes to show you that we can have all of these skills and we don't have to try to sound like a peckerwood. We don't have to coach, we don't have to change the tonalities in our voice to appease. You feel me? That appeasement is what's keeping your ass locked down. That appeasement, that trying to appease to somebody and they still call you a nigga to your face. Like, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. And you are somewhat, you know, you're taking swipes at your own integrity. Like, you're diminishing who the fuck you are and you're not standing in it. You know what I mean? So challenge yourself to just be authentically who you are. If you got a speech impediment, well, so be it. If you talk with a list, well, so be it. If you have a heavy accent and whatnot, well, so be it. So be it. Just, you know, master that shit, man. You know, make that shit sound like music and whatnot. You don't have to try to conform. You don't have to code switch. You don't owe anybody anything. For real. So shout out to him. You know. Speaking of code switch, speaking of language, speaking of sorcery, speaking of witchcraft, check out this magic. Check out this quote unquote this sorcery. These are called the identity stealers. And after you see the video, you'll know why. In the box, it has their original name and then it has their stage name, right? Bob Dylan's real name is Zimmerman. Okay, they all are changed. They take identities. We spoke about it in the show, the last show we did, where we talked about We Are the Luxury, and we explained how in the 20s and in the 30s and whatnot, there was a group of people who got awarded. They got absorbed into white society. They got awarded whiteness. Right? Their reward for creating Americana through the movie industries, the 5 major studios, their reward was they were absorbed into white society, because prior to that, they were not white. Right? When the Irish decided that they wanted to play the game, they became white. The Italians became white. The Jews became white. They were not white. White is a socio-political status. It's not a race. Okay, it's not a race. They only have dumbed down people of these generations thinking that that's what it is. But if you do any type of research, you'll see that it's a status and it's not a race, right? So they absorbed them and they made them white. So this is a process right here where they're anglicizing their names, called anglicizing their names. Yeah, Ralph Lauren's last name is Lipshit. He's from the Bronx, called Lipshit, right? None of these people are real. They're not authentic. They're not living their true quote unquote lives and whatnot. They're all facades. All a facade. Right? From Cone to Kerry. I can't even pronounce that shit. Daniel Lovich. Greenspan to Jason Alexander. Gerstenfeld, Barrett. Albert Einstein turns into Albert Brooks. David Roshbaum is now David Bryan. Sean Witz is now Gene Simmons. That's like Chinese niggas calling himself Bob. Bob, my nigga? You're Bob Lee? Okay. Whatever. Gregory Schwartz and George Soros. Alan Schumberger as Woody Allen. Lawrence Harvey Zeiger, Larry King. Jonah Hill, Fieldstein, and Jonah Hill. Emmanuel Goldenberg is Edward Robinson. Right? So you talk about passing. This is who was passing. It wasn't necessarily Negroes. They're passing. They're passing as WASP. They're passing as blue bloods. They're passing as quote unquote Europeans, highbrow society, but that's not who they are. You feel me? These are the migrants. These are the aliens. You feel me? These are your aliens. These are the identity stealers. You feel me? It's a whole bunch of them everywhere. You don't know who they are. Well, yeah, they're linguistically shapeshifters, right? Ralph Lipschitz is Ralph Lauren, who got his source. He lived in the Bronx. He was copying us. He got all of his source from us. They get around you and absorb you and whatnot. Natalie Kirchlag is Natalie Portman. Josh Peck is Peckerman. His original name was Peckerman. Winona Horowitz is now Winona Ryder. Sean Perelman is Sean Kanan. Mike Wallace, family name changed from Wallace. Andrew Clay Silverstein is Andrew Dice Clay, right? All score hacks, all identity stealers. Why are y'all changing your motherfucking names, right? What are you hiding from? Why don't y'all just go with your name in Hollywood? That's why Drake. That's why homegrown Europeans, right? The first wave of the pilgrims, the real pilgrims and whatnot. You know, they be banging on these people right here. You feel me? Because they like, yo, y'all be trying to be like us. Y'all not like us and whatnot. And they'll out them and whatnot. But we don't know what that beef is about because we don't have no idea. A lot of us don't even know we don't know the internal gripes that they're having. We don't know that these people just became white. Literally, like in 2 generations, they literally just became white. Don't take my word for it. Call me a big cap. Call me a pseudo. Go call me everything. But before you finish calling me these things, just go do a fucking Google search, my nigga. Just go and do a fucking Google search. You could call me anything, but just go ahead and do the search though. You know what I mean? Make me look stupid. Go and research it. But that's what's going on. Go and look up the identity stealers. It's a literal, you'll go on a deep dive. Jerry Lewis is Jerome Livich, right? So what actually happened when these studios became profitable, and when Gone with the Wind and all of these movies with Clark Gable and all of them started to take off, and the magic of Hollywood began to indoctrinate both natives and people around the world, they began to export the propaganda. They had to pay these people off with some type of reward. So what you began to see is these Hollywood executives who were like short and stumpy, looking like Danny DeVito, hook noses, looking like Oz Cobb, right? Looking like the Penguin and whatnot. I'm talking about Joe Pesci ass niggas. You know what I mean? They were given the daughters, right? They were given the daughters of these white Anglo-Saxon Protestant blue bloods and whatnot, right? Similar to how they gave Schwarzenegger the Kennedy girl, right? So they married them in. This happened in the Indian reservations. You see it in the movie Killers of the Flower Moon. They did it with Pocahontas. They did it with the Indians. That's where you get the $5 Indians and shit like that through marriage. That's why they're doing it now with this integration where they're letting people marry and shit like that. When they let everybody become integrated, they did it with the Moors and whatnot. They infiltrate. They did it in Europe with the royalty in France. They did it in Germany. They did it in Scotland. This what they do. They marry in and they absorb and they take over, but they get to what the gates. The gate is the woman. The gate is the woman. The gates to the kingdom is through the matrilineal, it's through the woman. So when you give up the daughter and whatnot, when the daughters, and in Africa, they give up the daughters for dowry and shit like that. And, sometimes they settle wars by giving up the daughter. And when you lose the war, the booty of the war is the daughter. You know what I mean? The daughter is the booty of the war. You lose your daughters and whatnot. Even the Nephilim came down and piped down the daughters and you know what I mean? So, yeah. So that's what happened. They start marrying in, and they began their quote unquote, they married them in, and they changed their names and they absorbed them into their society. And then their offspring basically has the names of the fathers, or they have the anglicized European names. And then those children carry on like they're part of highbrow society, or they're a part of white society, or they're part of this, you know what I mean? All of that, Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, all of that, right? So you had the Russian Jews who are basically at the top of the Jew pyramid. They're at the top of it. You got the Russians, you got the Polacks, you got the Ukrainians, you have all of these things, but the Russian and the German Jews, they were the ones who had the bread in America. They had industry. They were kind of favored and whatnot. They were the ones who brought they brought the niggas from that was living in the tenements, in the ghettos and whatnot, dirty ass niggas. Those were the Polish. Those were like the Ukrainians. There was no Israel back then. Those were those type of people. And some of the Russian and German Jews, they were like bankers, you know what I mean? High, they were high and shit like that. They even let the lowly Jews marry their daughters. You know what I mean? They looked down on them niggas. They was stink. They was dirty. They let them marry their daughters and whatnot and brought them into the fold. That's even how that happens with the mafia. But let us continue. Yeah, the Slavics, the Slavs and all of those type of people who were considered to be like, bottom feeders, right? They legitimized them through the marriages. Adam Keith Horowitz is fucking Ad Rock. So when you see people talk about that we've been infiltrated by a foreign country who have taken over, and literally there's honeypot operations where they've blackmailed powerful politicians. They've blackmailed. It's easy to blackmail niggas because you don't even know who you sleeping with. You know what I'm talking about? You think you sleeping with Ann Taylor, you sleeping with Ann Leibovitz. You know what I mean? You just think that this is a little bit innocent Becky that just want to give you some Becky, but here it is. She got a whole honeypot operation. Cameras is set up in the Motel 6, and you know, you do your little 1, 2, 3. You go back to your job as a judge. The niggas send you a motherfucking email. Is you getting some neck? And they like, yo, I need you to meet me at Dunkin' Donuts at 1 o'clock. You know what I mean? Leave your phone in the office, and they make you an offer that you can't refuse. It's the Epstein way. You know, it's the Epstein way. This is how they're catching people who are basically getting trapped by their double agents. These are most of these people work for intelligence. Remember, if you're from Is It Real, you have to serve mandatory time in their military. So they have forms of their military that's basically, you know, it's not putting on a military outfit. You're intelligence. You're basically Mossad. You know what I mean? You're working the operations on different levels. So when you want to question why is America sending all of that money over there, why do they have their teeth in the necks of the Statue of Liberty, why is America basically getting pimped out? Well, it's been taken over. There's been a coup in America, and slowly but surely people are figuring it out and waking up to the fact that this shit has been infiltrated. You know what I mean? To be honest with you, they probably never, you know, in a parallel universe, the SS and the Nazis won the war. Oh yeah, Yuri Bezmenov. Yeah, he goes in. You know what I'm saying? I spoke about him on a few occasions. I read some of his research and whatnot. He definitely ties in a lot of that shit together. You know. So all of the federal tax dollars that they sending over there to, you know, fund this illegal war, killing children and whatnot, burning babies up, you know, a grand, you know, all of the atrocities and the genocide and, you know, all of this satanic shit that's going on. That's being funded by taxpayer dollars. By taxpayer dollars. Okay. It's a tragedy. So Trump is back on his bullshit. He's indicating that he is going to treat Africa like he treated Zelensky. You know what I mean? He said some crazy shit though, where he didn't even know what the Congo was. For all of my, you know, bootlicking Africans who try to get on the Trump train and whatnot. You know, it's 2025. This nigga said that he don't even know what the Congo is. Like, he's not even acknowledging you niggas. And the president of the Congo literally was shining his boots a few weeks ago. Check it out.
People that were in jail for horrible, you know, they released jails, Georgia, from all over the world, and released them, not just South America, all over the world, the Congo and Africa. Many people come from the Congo. I don't know what that is, but they came from the Congo. And all over the world they came in, opened their jails. Venezuela, practically all of their prisoners released into our country. And we took them because we had an incompetent administration called the...
So the Congo supplies, this nigga said he's in business, but he don't know what the Congo is, right? The Congo literally has supplied the multi-trillion-dollar tech industry with its most precious, quote unquote, minerals and whatnot. You feel me? It had supplied. Like, are you fucking dumb? You know what I mean? It's definitely trumping and whatnot. But when you speak of places like this that you have been that you're actually going over there to help you supposed to be helping them out, and there's going to be a trade-off where they're going to open up their minerals to America, but the president is not even acknowledging the existence of the most mineral rich country in all of Africa. Then you know that he's going over there to do what he's been with America and what these Europeans been doing. He's going over there to continue the legacy of King Leopold, hands down. You know, the indication is just in the speech. He's sitting there talking to the Italian PM about, you don't even know what the fuck the Congo is.
Biden administration.
And he's also having conversations about getting ready to ship niggas or Americans, Black Americans, over to his overseas jails in El Salvador and the mega prisons that they're building all around, so they could start shipping niggas out.
And to think what they've done to our country. And I was elected to straighten that out, and I'm doing that. But we have activist judges that don't want murderers to be sent out of our country. They don't want killers and drug dealers and drug lords and people from mental institutions. They want them to stay in our country, I guess. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah. So Trump eyes the Congo's incredible mineral riches as armed conflict devastates the region, right? The armed conflicts are CIA backed rebels and stuff like that. These conflicts are being backed by the CIA. Don't be fooled. This is for disruption purposes, so they could continue to pillage through chaos, right? And they're just continuing to do that. The day that boots land in the Congo, then the situation over there with Ibrahim and Burkina Faso, it takes another level, because I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that play right there in real time. The minute they get boots on ground in Africa, they're going to begin to meddle in the affairs of these countries that are revolting and whatnot and claiming their independence, and not just kicking out America and France. You know, they're threatening the whole imperialistic playbook for the next 100 years. They're fucking up the long game. So something has to happen in the form of a conflict, and we will begin to see that begin to brew. So pay attention, okay? Target Africa, pay attention. So President Trump's Africa envoy, Massad Boulas, has finished a tour of several East African nations, including the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where he discussed a peace deal that could involve the U.S. tapping the country's rich mineral resources, including cobalt and lithium. Several Western mining companies are already reportedly lined up to take part in a U.S.-backed mineral resources partnership. These people are amongst the poorest people in the world, says Jan Egeland, Secretary General of the Norwegian Refugee Council. They live on top of the incredible mineral riches that have been plundered by so many companies, by so many colonial powers, so many of the neighbors of the DRC. I hope the U.S. will really make sure there is an equitable deal, but that can really only happen if there is a peace agreement. You know that it's not going to be an equitable deal. You know that they're going to pillage. They might even pillage it worse than it was pillaged by everybody else, because they're just so thirsty at this point. They have things that they are bookmarked to do, and they need to pillage that land. So shame on the government of the Congo. Shame on these multinational companies and whatnot that have just been raping that land for more than 100 years, ever since they carved that bitch up in the Berlin Conference and put them people through all of that genocide and whatnot. And they don't even have basic, you know, necessities. And they're sitting on some of the richest cachets. It's the richest country in the world. And you got a fucking Dubai, and then you got the Congo. but they keep these conflicts going and whatnot, and they're playing a very sick game. So let's talk about this Stargate shit. Let's talk about this time travel shit. Let's talk about all of that. So we know in the beginning of the year, Donald Trump announced a $500 billion AI project called Stargate to boost the U.S. infrastructure and to create jobs. So in order for Stargate to even be finished and built and put together, they're going to need the mineral resources, not only of the Congo, but of other third world countries and whatnot that they are going to actively pursue. All right. If they have not already done so. Okay. But the Congo is the main target, and it looks like they have got that monopoly piece. You feel me? From the looks of things. The new American administration has announced plans for the Grand AI initiative they call Stargate. This same code name was used during the Cold War for some bizarre CIA operations. 50 years ago, Project Stargate employed people who supposedly possess ESP for techniques such as remote viewing and psychokinesis, the ability to move objects with one's mind. How it began. The CIA operatives believed that the Soviet counterparts might be engaging in a paranormal, and therefore they couldn't permit their rivals to get the upper hand. So in 1972, the U.S. Congress allocated millions of dollars to fund the spy agency's experiment in psychic techniques. The program was initially overseen by Major General Albert Stubblebine, a career Army man involved in intelligence. Serving under him was Lieutenant Skip Atwater. In all, no more than 20 people were involved. The project was subcontracted to the nonprofit Stanford Research Institute in Cali. Russell Targ and Harold Puthoff, two parapsychologists, set about finding people who exhibited the talents required. They sought people capable of remote viewing, a term that they coined. All right. So Stargate was announced, and is backed by big tech. They want to cut China out of it. You know what I'm saying? This is supposed to be the project that's going to put America at the top. It is a defining project. You know what I mean? It's what, files revealed that this top secret project's primary focus was to look into anomalous phenomenon, including telepathy and remote viewing. The Major General Albert Stubblebine was convinced of the value of psychic powers and deeply interested in UFOs. One of the shock experiments, titled Mars Exploration, saw the agency attempt to use psychics to describe the planet. The already bizarre project from May 22nd, 1984 became even weirder as an unnamed psychic described a red planet at around approximately 1 million years BC. This apparent seer was given an envelope with the planet, the time period of interest, and geographical coordinates. Scientists choose this odd time period as they believe life could have existed on Mars 1 million years ago. Right? Now, this is the experiment where they claim they saw pyramids on Mars, and they saw 10-foot tall, 9-foot tall black people coming out of these pyramids and spaceships and whatnot. They were muscular built, and they were jet black, and they were very tall and whatnot. Okay. That's Project Stargate from the CIA. So fast forward, Donald Trump and them are opening up Project Stargate, utilizing AI, semiconductors, and other technology like data centers and whatnot. And this is where we are. Okay. So mind readers and mystical time travelers use their apparent powers at the request of top U.S. spies in a series of strange experiments from the 1970s to the 1990s. I'm an avid comic book fan. I remember seeing some shit like this in X-Men, an Uncanny X-Men, going back in the days, yo. Like, this is not that this is something, because the comic book writers are tied into people at the CIA. They're tied into people in the paranormal communities. Like, that's their source material. So they literally will take real stories and basically reinterpret them and through the comics and whatnot. You know what I mean? Similar to how they take adaptations of books and write screenplays. Okay. So this is some of the sketching that you saw during Project Stargate. All right. Somebody sketched the devil. You know what I mean? They would sketch the psychic was sketching shit. Okay. But if they were doing that with seers in the 70s and you know, astral travelers, what the fuck? Do you think they stopped? You think they realized that there's people walking around with these kind of powers, and they just was like, you know what, guys, let's get on something else. Let's go ahead and build that office in Hollywood. And good job, guys. We're gonna leave you guys, and we'll be, you know what I mean, we'll be going over here. No, they didn't do it like that. They probably expanded that shit after doing what the fuck they did in the 80s. They probably expanded it. You feel me? Alien pyramids on Mars, time travel, and devil sketches inside the CIA's original Stargate project as Trump revives the name. So by Trump bringing up Stargate, he's just summoning all of that information, all of that. You know, he's talking about going to Mars. You know what I mean? Project Stargate is talking about doing they're tapping into the Mars thing. And this is what they've known. You know what I mean? Fuck this Elon Musk shit talking about Mars. The CIA and American government been known about Mars. When they took the picture of the face on Mars or the pyramids on Mars, you know, that's all tied into this project Stargate, which was top secret until recently. Okay. So here goes the article that says the Trump admin science director says American tech can manipulate time and space. Whoa. Right? Let's get into that. Michael Kratsos. Hold on. Because we on our pronunciation shit. We don't want to mispronounce things. That's one of my pet peeves. I don't like mispronouncing words. I don't like it. Let me be right there. Let me crack. Mm-hmm. Hold on. Kratzios. So Michael Kratzios suggested on Monday that the United States has technology that can manipulate time and space. You don't say. Let's talk about it. Let's get into it. White House advisor Michael Kratzios goes viral with sci-fi-like claim that the U.S. can manipulate time and space. Internet goes on a frenzy, and the users question him. Michael Kratzios' speech has gone viral on the internet after he made a sweeping sci-fi sounding declaration that implies American technology can manipulate time and space via a report. The viral moment. Mr. Kratzios a director in the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, made his comment in a policy speech during the Endless Frontier Retreat at Austin, Texas on April 14th, reported Newsweek. Although the comment seemed like a metaphor to capture the capability of contemporary innovation, It rapidly became a hit on social media, trending as to what its possible meaning might have been. During his speech, Cratio said, "Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, cause things to grow, and improve productivity," right? So he basically was in a group or in a room of his peers and whatnot, speaking how Europeans speak when they're in these conferences and what they think is private and whatnot. And somebody literally took the story and it grew legs and it went viral. Okay. And he basically spoke to he opened up his mouth and he said too much, you know what I mean? So they had to backtrack and cover that shit up because he was amongst his contemporaries talking fly and whatnot. But then when the public got a whiff of it, they had to backtrack and clean it up and be like, "Oh no, that's not what he was talking about." Right? So let's get into some of the history of this time travel and see if it's even possible right now. Kratsios did not explain what technology his remark referred to, though the address went on to mention artificial intelligence, biotech, and semiconductors. The remarks come as the Trump administration announced several exemptions to allow technology companies to evade its recent tariff blitz. Apple Watches, laptops, and semiconductor equipment are among a slew of items exempted from the staggering tariffs on Chinese goods and the base of the 10% tariff applied to all other imports. The president on Wednesday also released a fact sheet regarding his plan to involve technology and his plan to increase government efficiency. That document cited a presidential memo directing government agencies to make maximal use of technology for infrastructure projects, right? So that's the green light for them to go balls deep and begin to do a sweeping change in the infrastructure and to begin to AI or implement AI and implement all of the traits, all of this upgrade to the system, right? Turn this shit into machine city. All right. So they're talking about the golden age of American innovation. Um, borrowing from the inauguration speech when Donald Trump really began to he began to brand that idea of this quote unquote golden age, golden age. He kept saying it, golden age, golden age, golden age. We're in the golden age. So imagine if their golden age is being able to time travel. Imagine if their golden age is being able to quote unquote manipulate time space continuum. You know what I mean? Imagine if their golden age was them being able to win the race against China and basically jump through time. Because if you really want to think about it, that what's the most that's the most efficient weapon ever created? Time travel? You could go and wipe out your enemies from thousands of years ago. You could wipe out their parents. You could wipe out armies and whatnot. You feel me? You could set off nuclear bombs in Kemet and turn it into sand, into a desert. You feel me? You could basically create a mud flood. You could sink Atlantis. You could basically destroy the Tartarians. You feel me? You could go and confront the Moors with battleships and whatnot and destroy. I mean, there's a lot of things that could have been done. And when you look back and when you look at how all of these monuments have remnants of a nuclear warfare, they're buried under sand. All of these maps have been changed. You know what I mean? The ice water, like all of this shit that don't make no sense. But when you think about time travel and them being able to go back in time and fuck shit up, it begins to make a little bit of sense why things are so effed up right now. And we don't have any recorded records about when a lot of the effing up took place. You know? So we're exploring some possibilities to find out what's possible. We want to know if the Large Hadron Collider is possible. We want to know if there's time travel taking place right now. Where is it coming from? Is it coming from CERN? Is it coming from quote unquote the quantum computers like the D wave and whatnot? Is it coming from artificial general intelligence, AGI? Where is it coming from? Like where would it be emanating from? I would love to have a panel with some of the sharpest minds in our community, the KT, the arch degrees, the Alkebalons, the Bedels, the scientists amongst us who could, we could brainstorm and have a real intricate scientific conversation about this thing right here. Let me know in the chat if that sounds like something that I should pursue. You know what I mean? Let me know if that sounds like something I should pursue. And if there's a name or a scholar or a teacher that would be complimentary to the conversation, put their name in the chat as well. Okay, put their name in the chat as well, because why not? You know what I mean? It's going to take some of our wisest minds, sharpest minds and whatnot to break this shit down, So we got the theoretical foundations of time travel, right? General relativity. Okay. Einstein's equations allow solutions like closed timeline curves, which are CTCs. Say it with me, y'all. CTCs. Okay. Wormholes or cosmic strings that could enable time travel. These require exotic matter, right? Negative energy densities to stabilize wormholes, extreme space-time curvature, right? i.e., near black holes or Planck scale energies, chronology, protection conjecture from Stephen Hawkins suggests nature prevents time travel to avoid paradoxes. Then you have quantum mechanics, QM, retro casualty, future events influencing what? The past. Future events influencing the past. Suggests future events influencing the past is debated in interpretations like the transactional interpretation, but it does not enable macroscopic time travel. Quantum entanglement cannot transmit information faster than light or backwards in time. Number two, quantum computing's role. Simulating space-time and quantum gravity. Quantum computers might simulate quantum field theories or toy models of space-time, i.e. holographic principle or ADS/CFT correspondence. However, quantum hardware, right? IBM, Google, D-Wave, right? Google just came out with a super advanced chip that they basically discovered. Oh, a super advanced chip that that they basically came out with and said that they were able to beat China, right, in the quantum race, because there is a quantum race for supremacy going on right now. Please believe it, right? So current quantum hardware, IBM, Google, and D-Wave lacks the qubit count and error correction to model complex space-time geometries. Stimulating or simulating a wormhole or closed time-like curve would require a theory of quantum gravity, which does not yet exist. Well, it doesn't exist in the public, that is, but who is to tell with them having computers already functioning. They have quantum computers that can solve computations that would take classical computers 10,000 years to solve. So you mean to tell me, right? So think about ChatGPT 100, right? That's literally what a quantum computer like the D-Wave is able to do in terms of computation. You mean to tell me that they have these quantum computers that could solve the world's most intricate math equations and problems and whatnot? You mean to tell me that they have not cracked certain codes? And it's already been 10 years already. And look, get the fuck out of here. They're just not telling anybody that. But you could but believe your bottom dollar that they've been able to crack many codes and solve many equations and whatnot and operate and come up with many formulas that they can at least try out. You know, that they can at least try out. You feel me? Let's not be super duper naive. Them people are not going to let you know, because if they let you know, that would impede on them experimenting and the upper hand that they're able to get to create what we know as this Mandela effect, where they've gone back on the time-space continuum and they've been manipulating the times. Just ask John O'Connor and them. You know, just ask John O'Connor and them. And speaking of that, from a perspective of what we call neurocinema, right? Neurocinema, predictive programming and whatnot. God damn it. Like when you really think about it, they've been implementing these quote unquote codes. They've been basically planting the seed in our subconscious for about 50 to 60 years, right? Because when you look at it, Star Trek had tablets, had iPhones. You feel me? It had virtual reality, it had holograms. Like all of that shit is here right now. So when you really think about it, the Jetsons and all of that, I saw I Show Speed in China. He was in a flying car. They got flying cars in China, bro. He was in a flying car. So a lot of the things that we saw in our, like everything that G.I. Joe was showing you with the Dr. Mindbender and all of this crazy shit, DNA cloning, all of that shit is here now. You literally could buy a fucking cloning kit off Amazon. You know what I mean? You could get a what is that? What's that company where you could get, or CRISPR? You could get a CRISPR kit and make a plant glow in the dark. You could get a CRISPR kit and manipulate the genome of a cat and give them blue eyes and shit, bro. Like all of that stuff from Star Wars is here. So when you look back and think about it, well, goddamn it, if these movies are programming us, definitely in 30 to 40 years, if not before that, this technology that they keep shoving down every single fucking Marvel movie, it's about the multiverse, it's about time traveling, interstellar, and all of that. Yeah, it's going to manifest quickly, and we're in the quickening, so it's gonna manifest within the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years. Discovering, so AI's potential contribution. So this is where AI comes in. Discovering new physics. AI, which is neural networks, reinforcement learning, machine learning, could analyze vast data sets from particle colliders or telescopes to uncover patterns hinting at exotic matter, extra dimensions, or quantum gravity effects. Now, they've already found exotic matter through the Large Hadron Collider. They've already found exotic matter and whatnot. That's already been discovered, okay? Google's AlphaFold revolutionized protein folding. A similar AI might infer new space-time solutions, optimizing exotic matter configurations. If exotic matter exists, AI could theoretically design stable configurations using quantum simulations. However, exotic matter remains hypothetical, i.e., the Casimir effect hints at negative energy, but only in microscopic amounts. No known mechanism exists to scale it to macroscopic quantities. So you have combined AI and quantum computing scenarios. These are all scenarios to see if time travel is possible. Hybrid quantum classical algorithms, quantum machine learning, which is QML, could accelerate AI's ability to explore theoretical models, string theory, vacua, or wormhole geometries. However, there are mathematical exercises, not engineering blueprints. Current QML is limited to niche tasks like optimization or classification. Breaking causality in quantum systems. Hypothetical quantum time travel models propose self-consistent loops and quantum states. A quantum computer might simulate such scenarios, but these simulations would not affect the real world. So then we jumped into LHC and CERN's time travel possibilities, right? LHC is a Large Hadron Collider. The LHC's roles and limitation. Purpose of the LHC is designed to collide protons at near light speeds to study fundamental particles, i.e. the Higgs boson, which they call the God particle, and quark gluon plasma. Not engineered to manipulate space-time. Its energy scales are quadrillions of times weaker than that of Planck energy needed to probe quantum gravity effects. Microscopic black holes / wormholes. Some theories, i.e. extra dimensions in string theory, suggest that the Large Hadron Collider might create microscopic black holes, but none have been detected. Even if formed, they would evaporate instantly via Hawking radiation. Create stable wormholes that will require exotic matter and energies far beyond the LHC's reach. Now, they got to be a nerd in the audience, a blurred in the audience who smoked some runts tonight. You know what I mean? One of my creators that are out there, take this source material and get busy. The fucking world is in your hands, my nigga. Like the comic books that I will be creating off of this shit is gonna be crazy. The type of conversations, the type of ideas that I'm getting just reading it is crazy. This is considered source material, ladies and gentlemen. This is how comic books are created. This is how movies are created. They literally watch videos like this from teachers and scholars, and they extract the data, they extract the hypotheses and the theories and the, you know what I mean? They extract and they animate it and they create characters and storylines and storyboards around it and whatnot. This is what Marvel did. This is what DC did. This is what Image, Dark Horse, and many of the different houses and whatnot of imagination and fantasy. You know, but we need fantasy. We need some fantasy right now. You know what I'm saying? We need some fantastic fantasy writers to come through with an Afrofuturistic pen and bring us into the future. Like how George Lucas did for his race. Feel me? Like George Lucas did for his race. He did that for his race. That's why he ain't put too many niggas in space. Bars. Misconceptions in pop culture. Faster than light neutrinos. A flawed opera experiment initially suggested neutrinos exceeded light speed, but this was later attributed to a faulty cable. Even if true, relativity forbids such motion for massive particles. Science fiction versus reality. The LHC cannot create time loops or portal. Such ideas stem from fiction and misinterpretations of quantum theories, right? Fundamental barriers. Time travel to the past introduces paradoxes, which is called the grandfather paradox. Most physicists believe chronology protection conjectures, which was proposed by Stephen Hawking, prevent such scenarios. I believe they touched on that on Back to the Future and whatnot. I believe they touched on that on Back to the Future. Energy requirements. Warping space-time significantly will require Planck scale energies far beyond any foreseeable human technology. Then we have speculative theories, which are unproven. Wormholes as time machines. If a traversable wormhole existed, moving one mouth at relativistic speeds could create a time difference. Thorne's model. However, stabilizing it requires exotic matter, cosmic strings. Hypothetical defects in spacetime could, in theory, create CTCs, right? If two strings move near each other at near light speeds, no evidence exists for such objects. Conclusion: the LHC and CERN are not developing a time machine, nor is such a project feasible with current or foreseeable technology. While theoretical physics entertains time travel as a mathematical curiosity, practical implementation faces insurmountable barriers. Right? So this is the time. How many people are familiar with the TV show Loki, right? Which is on Marvel and whatnot. You know, shout out to Loki. But there is in Loki, they are time travelers, right? So the TVA, right? The TVA is the Time Variance Authority, and they are basically, you know, they move. It's from the Marvel Cinematic Universe and whatnot. But this concept of the TVA and time travel has been inundated in the subconsciousness of the quote unquote population over the past, I would say, 10 to 15 years, right? But there's been an uptick in it in the past 5 years. Like damn near everything that they're putting out is talking about us having variants, having, like Jet Li movie showed you, the one where there's 12 dimensions, or there's 12 there's multiple variations of us in these different multiverses and things of that nature, right? So Doctor Strange, the last movie, talked about that. The Loki series talked about that. Kang the Conqueror, which was supposed to be in the Marvel universe, they just put out the trailer for the Fantastic Four. Silver Surfer is a female. Galacticus is here. You know what I'm saying? The trailer, the latest trailer dropped yesterday. You know what I mean? All about time traveling. They're about to introduce Doom into the Avengers universe. He's all about time traveling, right? In the Fantastic Four comic book series, he was the first human to time travel and whatnot. Kang the Conqueror, time traveler, right? Lives in a multiple alternative dimension and whatnot. You know what I'm talking about? Has multiple variants of himself. Okay. So all of this is going on through Marvel and whatnot. So like I said, in a few years, that shit will become a reality because it's already been implanted. The seed has already been implanted into the subconsciousness of millions and millions of chosen ones, right? Semiconductors and time manipulation. Semiconductors are central to computation and time measurement. Key concepts: quantum tunneling and superposition, used in quantum chips, which is Google Sycamore, the new one that they put out, where particles can exist in multiple states and even jump across time-like boundaries. Now, if you ask me, it's Google Sycamore that's been it's the Google Sycamore, or something coming out of DeepMind, something coming out of Google that's helping them with time travel. If you were to ask me, that's what my money would be on, with Google and whatnot. Josephson junctions, right? Superconductors. These circuits can detect tiny time-based quantum fluctuations and are core to devices like squids. They're foundational for quantum computers, which some believe could simulate or affect temporal fields, right? Squid Games. Time crystals, 2021. A new state of matter that oscillates in time without energy input. This discovery, achieved with quantum computing, hints at time symmetry breaking, which has implications for time loop theories, right? Artificial intelligence and temporal computation. AI is not a time machine, but it can simulate and predict events across time scales. Predictive modeling and neural nets. Deep learning models can forecast future trends and simulate past conditions by modeling chaos theory, weather systems, and even quantum systems. AI in quantum systems. AI algorithms now help stabilize quantum bits, which decohere due to time-based fluctuations. Google's quantum AI division is leading here. AI assisted hypersimulation, digital twin Earth models. We talked about the digital twins before by way of DARPA and Lockheed Martin and some other companies and whatnot, right? So NVIDIA as well. AI simulating, they have a whole nother twin world. It's an Earth model, and they have digital twins of everybody who they've gathered data through social media and shit like that. Yeah, they have a digital twin of you in a digital in a world, a Earth model. You know, they talk about this shit as a simulation. So what if this is what if I'm a digital twin of my higher self? Like, this is a fucking simulation. This is not even, you know what I mean? This is not real. Right? Think about that. Just ponder that. AI and quantum systems. AI algorithms now help stabilize quantum bits. I read that. Think of AI simulating entire timelines based on real world variables, essentially a computational time lens, right? That's the digital twin Earth model. Retro casualty simulations. Some researchers explore models where the future influences the past. AI is being used to simulate outcomes in such models. So that goes to the conversation that some people would say, well, what if Kemet is in the future and not the past? What if these wars that they're talking about turned the shit into a desert didn't even happen yet? Right? Them going into, think about it, the shit that they doing in the Middle East and things of that nature with the Stargates and all of these other things, the destruction of holy temples and stuff like that. What if that's affecting the past? Biotech and consciousness time perception. Time isn't just physics, it's perceived by the brain. Chronobiology and circadian reprogramming. CRISPR and synthetic biology are exploring how genes regulate time perception. What happens when these are hacked? Neural time dilation via neurotech. Brain computer interfaces, which is BCIs, may eventually allow for subjective time control. Combined with AI, this might simulate future or past environments with such fidelity it feels real. So here we have temporal computing, right? Where they are training LLMs and they're training the AI to basically tap into the they're training it about time traveling, right? So we find in the art world, when you talk about predictive programming, neural cinema, and whatnot, Still to this day, people cannot unexplain how The Simpsons and some other animations are able to predict the future, or able to predict future events seamlessly and whatnot. How are they able to get so many things right? Right? U.S. elections 2016, how the entertainment world predicted a Trump presidency, right? So it's not just the Simpsons, right? It goes into different cartoons and whatnot, different movies, okay? So they had a music video in 1999 for Rage Against the Machine, and they have a sign for Trump for president in that and whatnot. And I don't remember, Trump is a real estate businessman. He wasn't talking about going for president, shit like that back in the 90s. That wasn't his thing. He was talking about whole nother things, right? Michael Moore. Michael Moore directed the video, by the way, for Rage Against the Machine. Michael Moore, the documentarian. And then, of course, you have the whole thing about Barron Trump and a 200-year-old book called The Last President. They talked about a time traveler, right? The novels, Barron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, which came out in 1888, and The Last President, 1896. It was written by Ingersoll Lockwood. They fuel conspiracy theories that Donald Trump may have been predicted as a pivotal figure in history. Okay. So they're saying that Barron is the time traveler, and they're basically playing with time and whatnot. Based off his uncle having possession of Nikola Tesla's quote unquote rhyme book, right? His journals and things. They stole all of that shit out of his room when he died and whatnot. So his uncle, who Donald Trump talks about highly, right, was in possession of Tesla's time travel technology, Tesla coils, all of these other free energy and shit like that, right? So in Back to the Future, the villain Biff Tannen is based on Donald Trump, right? Biff Tannen and Back to the Future is Donald Trump, okay? So when we saw Back to the Future, we knew who the fuck it was depicting and whatnot, but there's so many similarities for the 1985 quote unquote Biff Tannen and the Donald Trump of today, okay? I even believe that they were talking about presidency and whatnot. He was everybody's favorite villain because he has some shit that everybody really he was able to go back in time and just live high on the hog because he was able to bet on games. He had the FanDuel cheat code. That's something that niggas in the hood would love. Yeah, smell me. Nigga, that's a cheat code of all cheat codes. You know what I'm saying? You could go to Vegas and be a boss. So this DeLorean right here, this car, right, which conspicuously is a DMC. This machinery is maybe the most important thing that we could possess in our lifetimes, especially if we were to have our own time machine. Like a time machine is it's the great equalizer. Like you literally could go, if you could travel through the timeline and wreak havoc and stop the colonizers, you feel me? And do some Sarah O'Connor shit. You could clip niggas before they even was born. Like it's a problem. You know what I mean? This should be the number one focus for so many people, is to discover what the fuck you can do to basically travel through time. Like anybody who discovers that, it's a checkmate. The game of chess has been won on this level until they come with another Bobby Fischer. You the chess master. Nothing can fuck with you. You feel me? Nothing can stop you. So yeah, the DeLorean is a chess piece right there. The DeLorean, boy. Back to the Future writer. Biff is Donald Trump, right? Biff is Donald Trump. Okay. So they were familiar with this whole thing. They were programming because this movie was very popular for people of my demographics. Very, very popular. Everybody saw that shit and we bought into it. But there's a lot of stories outside of that about time travelers. There's the time traveling hipster, right? There's a person in a Mike Tyson thing that was on an iPhone back in the days. They caught a picture of them. But the most famous time traveling quote unquote experiment is the Philadelphia experiment and the Montauk Project, right? They're not spoken of enough. Okay. Ross Ben comes on the show on 2 occasions and he gives a deep dive. He gives a dissertation about the Philadelphia experiment. As a matter of fact, we're in 2025. In 2023, that was the 40-year anniversary after. So in 1943 is the Philadelphia experiment. In 1983 is the Montauk experiment, right? In 2023, we don't know what necessarily happened. We will have to figure out what took place in 2023 that we could say is in perfect alignment with these occurrences. Was there a time jumping? Was, you know what I mean? Something might come out that was classified, but you know, it's up to us to go and do the deep digging and whatnot. But this was definitely time traveling. I have no reason to believe that they stopped, especially it's in 1943. They did not stop doing it. They probably perfected it. They took a little more underground, but who the fuck would turn their backs off of the fact that they were able to transport a whole goddamn naval military ship, right? Through time. It didn't fare good for the people on the ship and whatnot. It didn't work out for them. You know, they got messed up and everything. But the ship time jump, you know, the whole fucking ship jumped through time. Okay. So these things are real, right? So we don't need nobody at the White House telling us about time traveling because these things are already known to take place. Okay. So John Tidor is another time traveler or a suspected time traveler. He said he came from the 2035, 2036 to avoid a nuclear war that was supposed to take place in 2015. I guess this nigga was successful, eh? I guess he was successful. There's a video of a man sneaking into a shed and he came out a few days later and he looked like he went through a time portal. He looked visibly 20 years older and whatnot. So a guy set up a camera and you know, he caught somebody going into a shed and basically that person disappeared and then reemerged months later looking very much older and whatnot. So it was theorized that he's a time traveler, right? So these things are being documented, all right? Biff and your boy Donald Trump, as you can see, they're almost like doppelgangers and whatnot. Same energy, you know what I mean? A-holes and whatnot, big A-holes. And remember Weird Science, the brother from Weird Science that they turned into like Jabba the Hutt? Right? So we're going to have that panel and we're going to have a further conversation about all of this. But yeah, I'm an advocate for the time traveling. I'm a geek, you know, I'm with all of that. I want to see all that shit happen. Like for real, for real. I can't wait. You know, I can't wait. What a time to be aligned, y'all. You feel me? What a fucking time to be aligned. You know? You're fired. Yeah. You're fired. So it's very interesting, and we will pursue these this information. We will be back on Monday. We will be back on Monday, Melanin Monday. We have a special guest. It's going to be a fire ass show. It's going to be a beautiful show. Y'all going to learn a lot. We're going to continue the conversation about African spirituality. We're going to continue the conversation about black magic. We're going to continue the conversation about sorcery and whatnot. So y'all stay tuned, and we will have a mini review of the movie entitled The Sinners, right? That I want everybody to see. If you get an opportunity, go and see Sinners. Do you think you could time travel through meditation? Most definitely. The mind could travel, but when we talk about time traveling, we talk about the whole body and everything. But for right now, the mind travels through meditation. But of course, the mind travels through music. You know what I'm saying? The mind travels through music. You put on some goddamn music from your childhood, your mind will travel back into your childhood. So that shit is real. You feel me? That shit is real. I'll see y'all in the astral realm though, man. Thank you everybody for pulling up tonight. You know, I'm gonna go get me some rest and then I'll be back at it mañana, bright and early. 420. Smoke it down. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, she me. And yeah. Go and get that book though. Remember, we got the book on for my Patreons, and we'll have the book for Buy Me a Coffee. That book being the Black Herman book. Okay, Black Herman's book. Make sure y'all get that because that's a great read. I was reading that earlier and whatnot. And we'll also try to get you Pascal Beverly Randolph's book as well. We're gonna get our hands on that. We're gonna get you some literature from the good brother. You know? So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for their time tonight. Okay. I want to thank everybody for their time. Real quick, I'm uploading the book so y'all could get a glimpse of it. Yes, Sinners with Michael B. Jordan, the Ryan Coogler movie. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, happy Resurrection Day. Yes, tap into that. If you watch that on, I suggest you go see it in IMAX. But if you don't have the bread, go and get it off the internet for free. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. I do want to support the God. I do want to make sure that I want to make sure that they make a number one. I want that shit to get the coins that it deserves. That's why I'm going to spend my hard-earned money to support melanated cinema. I like melanated horror. They said it's a horror. I don't know. I don't know if it is or not. I'll have to tell you, but you know, I'm into all of that. You know what I'm saying? I just don't want no ignorant horror shit. But yeah, here's the PDF. It goes deep, you know what I'm saying? It goes in all the way to the hundreds. So you might want to tap in and get some of this ancient wisdom. It's not manipulated, it's not stepped on and whatnot. This hasn't been compromised. This is from the horse's mouth. You know what I mean? This is source material. Okay? This is source material. So come and get that. All right? Come and get that. Yeah, they got the red and the blue and come on now. It's definitely a red and a blue. You know, I might pop up with a Sinner shirt on Monday. You never know. God damn it. Just depending what I see. Is it paperback? No, it's PDF. Fuck. It's a PDF, man. You feel me? If you go on Patreon, it'll be in PDF form. It's not paperback. But yeah, with that being said, thank you everybody. Buy Me a Coffee is right there. If you like what you heard tonight, leave me let me go and buy a coffee. Leave a donation, leave a love offering so we could go and get that coffee. And with that being said, Peace, love, and light to the family. Y'all stay dangerous. We will catch up with you. One.
Red, blue, purple light. Friends. Red, blue, purple light. Friends. Facts. Red and blue, purple light. Friends. Red and blue, purple light. Friends. Facts. You can get to know the ledger, sacrilegious Sunday to melanin Monday. You can get to know the ledger, my love. Just open your third eye on Thursday. Lord, the food, the art, the clothes, the Vatican's getting exposed fast. We put the show on the road. You better stay on your toes. I was till the land focused on the ego. Then I open my heart, let go of the ego. Grand after grand, I'm stacking up these C notes. Facts, facts, yeah. We gon' put this shit on our backs. Facts, facts. We in your city, pull up where we at. Facts, facts. Peace, love and light. Peace, love to the family. Peace, love and light to the family. Peace, love and light to the family.
These days and time, black man, is going to be the time that you have been waiting for. You came here for a reason. Whatever pressure, whatever adversity, whatever the fuck you feel, I don't know what you feel, but whatever you may be feeling is going to push you, and it's going to provoke you, and it's either going to make you or break you, similar to how pressure busts pipes or the shit makes diamonds.